everybody, today's video is going to be about what makes a shoe comfortable. Now, I've been working in fashion footwear for over 20 years at this point, and I've learned a thing or two along the way. When I first got the vice president of shoes job at Bergdorf Goodman, it was my first time buying footwear. And what I didn't realize was how many people suffer from foot pain. It just was not a thing I even was aware of. And it's so funny because literally everyone would come to me. As soon as they found out I was in the shoe area, they'd be like, oh my God, here are all my shoe problems. Help me find shoes that are comfortable. So of course, that was what I spent most of my day doing, was helping my friends and coworkers and customers find shoes that worked for them, that were not only chic, but comfortable. So today I wanted to share those secrets with you and things about what you should be looking for when you're buying shoes if you really want them to be comfortable. So here's the deal. I looked at this survey from the American Podiatric Medical Association, and I was shocked by some of the numbers. So 3 out of 4 people report having foot issues. 3 out of 4 people. That's basically everybody. And then 2 out of those 3 people wish their shoes could be more comfortable. Well, today I want to equip you with the knowledge so that when you are shoe shopping, you'll know what to look for. You'll know what things are going to likely trigger discomfort, or even things that will really help you as you're shopping for footwear. There are 3 main components of a shoe: the upper, the insole, and the outsole. So what is the upper? Let me just show you what those are. This is our purpose loafer, so I can show this to you here. The upper is this whole part. It's the part that covers the foot, okay? And then the insole, here's our insole. Let me just caveat that by saying most dress shoes do not come with this type of an insole. So in the case of a regular dress shoe, they will just be a little bit of leather and maybe, if you're lucky, a tiny little couple millimeters of cushioning, and then the leather sock liner. As you can see here, this is an example of a dress shoe. And then the outsole, that's this part here. This is the part that touches the ground. And this is the part that's going to really absorb most of the impact from your walking. So as you're walking on the pavement and concrete, which we all do in this modern day and age, a lot of that stress gets translated from our foot to our joints to our body. And so when you're wearing a shoe that has like a leather outsole or something that does not have a lot of cushion or shock absorption, that you're going to feel your heel will maybe start to hurt after a while, and it just does not absorb a lot of that shock and stress that your body then has to absorb. So those are like the 3 main components of a shoe. Now, you get into the upper. So the upper first. So this is the part that touches your foot. So the reality is everyone's foot is a different shape and a different size. And so what you want to do is find something that's going to feel really comfortable as it covers your foot, and to also stay on your foot, so you're not having to grip to keep your feet in the shoe. So an example like this, the upper, you want to look at the leather itself, or the material. Maybe it's not leather, maybe it's fabric or canvas, but does that material feel soft to the touch? Is it going to be supple? Will it move and be malleable with your foot as you're walking? So remember, your foot's not just stable. As you walk, your foot is contracting and making a ton of movements. And so you want to make sure that the material of the upper can move with your foot. So things like, a soft leather, or even stretch or knit or suede, those are all really supple materials that work really well and, kind of move and groove with your foot. Things that are going to be less comfortable, think about stiff leather, so patent leather that does not have any give, vinyl, PVC plastics, very thick box calf leathers, which is oftentimes used in men's shoes and looks beautiful and incredible. However, it does not really give. So those are things to think about when you're thinking about the material selection. The next thing you want to think about is adjustability. So is this upper something that will be able to adjust if you have a wider foot or a narrower foot? So for example, you think of like a Birkenstock that has buckles, and you can completely adjust those buckles to fit your foot, or even like a combat boot or a sneaker that laces up, right? So those are all adjustable features that help with whether or not a shoe is comfortable. And the last thing you want to think about is the interior of the shoe. And this is something that most people don't think about because you're just looking at the outside of the shoe and thinking to yourself, is this a beautiful shoe or not? Do I want to wear this on my foot? Well, guess what? On the inside, there's usually lots of little different seams and areas that can provide blisters if you're not careful. So for example, with our Purpose loafer and really in all of our shoes, you can see we actually put this little memory foam cushion here to really help prevent blisters in the back. And here, where there oftentimes would be a seam, we actually just split the leather and there's no seam, so it's very, very comfortable. One of the early wear test prototypes of this shoe, for example, originally had stitching down the center here. And when I was wearing it, I was like, oh, that feels awful. And I literally developed a blister. So that was something that obviously we fixed and changed for production. But you know, all of those things, you want to look at whether or not it's going to really provide a smooth, clean finish so that you don't get any blisters. The other thing you want to look at is the toe box. You know, everyone has a different shaped foot and a different width foot. So you want to look at, will this toe box accommodate your foot and not be too tight, because you want to make sure that it's not going to exacerbate any issues. Like some people have bunions or hammer toes. Those are all things that you want to be careful of and make sure that the shoe will feel nice. Next, we come to the insole. And this is a place where, you know, I'm going to look at a typical dress shoe here. The insole is basically pasted into the shoe, so it's not removable, and most shoes are like that, to be honest. And you can see here that, you know, as I'm touching this, there's maybe not the most, there's probably a tiny bit of cushioning in here, and then there's support. But in the insole, what you want is a combination of cushion and support. So the same way when you think about buying a mattress, you want it to be soft and cushioned, but you need support also. Otherwise, you would just sink into the mattress, and that would not be very comfortable. So your insole needs to have cushion and support. And how we address that solution with Reden is we actually made a separate removable insole. This is the type of thing that ordinarily you would have to buy separately in the aftermarket, but these are ours, and they're custom made to fit every single one of our shoes. You can see we have this awesome TPU arch support, and then we have targeted cushioning, and the whole thing has got foam and it feels dreamy. So those are things you want to look at. This one does not have arch support or a ton of cushioning, to be honest, but you know, that's not unusual for most dress shoes. And then last but not least, you want to look at the outsole, and this is where you're going to be looking at things like the cushion and shock absorption. What material is it made out of? Typically outsoles are made out of, especially in dress shoes, they're made out of leather, rubber, or plastic, or some kind of a leather alternative. And this one, for example, is made out of leather. So it's pretty hard, and you can hear that as I slap it on the table. And it, you know, I wouldn't say it has the most, it doesn't have much shock absorption, but it looks really elegant and chic, so that's nice. This is the rubber outsole from Reden, so you can see it's a little bit softer, and you know, it's very flexible and it's pretty gummy, so it has nice shock absorption. Because just remember, this is the thing that really absorbs the majority of the impact as you walk down the street. The next two things you want to look at are heel height and weight of the outsole. So the heel height, you would want to, you know, obviously the higher the heel is, the less comfortable it will be, most likely. And then the weight is something you want to just pay attention to, because some shoes are quite heavy, actually. Usually, most of that weight is coming from the outsole choice. However, they decided to do it. Either it's a wedge, or in the case of the clogs, for example, which are made out of wood, that wood is pretty heavy, so that's going to add weight to the shoe. Or you think about, like, you know, a big combat boot that has a huge rubber outsole. Well, a lot of that, you know, is going to be pretty heavy, actually, as you're walking. So those are just things that you want to think about as you're selecting your shoes. So I hope this helped you get an overview of what makes shoes comfortable and what to look for as you're shopping. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and comment below with what you'd like to see us talk about next. Thank you so much, and I will see you next time.